Major League Baseball has come out with its top 100. This is Pipeline. Baseball America used to be the thing for that, but now Pipeline seems to be number one. We'll tell you who's made that list. What's your reaction regarding the signing of Quintana? Strat O Matic cards are here, and all that and more next on this edition of Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Didn't think I'd get that much positive reaction regarding Strat O Matic, a little 3-minute segment, and man, good to hear from you all. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. We'll get to that a little bit later on here in the podcast. And here we are on a Tuesday, a rainy Tuesday here in the great state of Wisconsin. And no ball today. Brewers had the day off after playing a night game, so it was an off day today. I thought they had a day game, but it was, I guess it's an off day. Nonetheless, the Brewers, there's some notes in here. We can talk about Ashby's injury as well. But today, the MLB Pipeline Top 100 came out, and a few Brewers made the top 99, we'll say. It was good to see Hefferson Kiro, that's a sandwich. Hefferson Kiro. Anyway, the catcher who got hurt last year, he's in at number 47 overall, listed as the number one Brewer prospect in the organization. Of course, the Brewers would have the number one prospect being a catcher already where we're solid for the next couple of seasons until Contreras gets a free agent contract somewhere else. So Akiro is number one, 47th overall in Major League Baseball. Jesus Mate, one of just a handful of 17-year-olds on this list. Mate in at number 55, the second-ranked prospect in the Brewers. Cooper Pratt played some shortstop last night, I want to say. Sometimes these exhibition games, you watch so many of these games, they all run. Try keep a score of an exhibition game. Man, your scorecard is going to get all screwed up. I don't know if any of you do, but man, you keep score. If you keep score of an exhibition game, man, you are a true fan. Yeah, I have enough time doing it during the regular season with all these switches. But Cooper Pratt is 57. I believe it was yesterday he played shortstop. Jay Mizorowski is 99th right now in Major League Baseball as far as prospects are concerned. Dropping out of the Brewers ranks of their list of top top prospects, Eric Brown, the junior. Eric Brown Jr., 2022 first-round pick, had a disastrous 2024, is not even listed on the Brewers' top prospects. So that's disappointing. Eric Brown Jr. needs to turn that around quickly if he wants to stay in baseball. Eric Brown Jr., first-round pick of 2022, he was so disappointing. I believe he was like 187 batting average or something like that. He was bad for most of the year. But anyway, he's got to hopefully have a better 2025. Otherwise, they may just cut ties with him if they figure out he just can't play. But again, young guy. Aaron Ashby, the story of Monday night. Aaron Ashby had a bunch of issues on the mound. He couldn't throw it over the plate. He was hitting guys. He almost hit another guy. And finally, they got him the heck out of there. And he blamed it on his oblique and an oblique injury. He was supposed to have an MRI done on Tuesday. Since there was no media availability on Tuesday, we don't know the outcome of Aaron Ashby. So what timing on that of Ashby comes up with an oblique injury? And, on those things, that could be anywhere from a week to 3 months. Now, Pat Murphy said afterwards, he doesn't think it's like one of those 3-month deals, but who knows? Ashby goes on. He hasn't been added to anything yet, but we'll see where he ends up. If he ends up on the injured list or to start the season or how long this is going to be. But he just had a bad outing. He didn't have a very good first outing either. And now there's a lot of people out there who, if they weren't before, they're starting to wonder if, and he had an injury. Okay, so you're going to cut up some slack, but I think Brewers fans are growing frustrated, and I get it with Ashby because I wanted him to win the number 5 spot. I thought the number 5 spot was going to belong to him. Thought going into camp, it was going to be him and DL Hall competing for the 5 spot. Well, as we know, DL Hall came up with a lat injury, and then Ashby comes up with this injury. The pitchers are just getting injured left and right down at spring training. So, as timing would have it, the Jose Quintana move. Quintana. Not Quintana, Quintana. Some of y'all corrected me on that, and I appreciate that. You were nice about it. Quintana signing comes as good because he'll slide into the 5th spot, assuming there's no more injuries where he'd have to go to the 4th or the 3rd or who knows. But Aaron Ashby, we'll have to watch that. Tomorrow's podcast will likely have more on Aaron Ashby. So far, all the conversation about Quintana has been generally pretty good. Pretty good. Some of your comments yesterday. Dees says, our rotation is going to be so much better than last year. I love it. Some of you guys are down on this rotation. I think the rotation is real good. I'm glad they did go out and get Quintana, but at first I didn't think they really needed him because I thought Ashby would be okay for that 5th spot. But Quintana, what a guy. If you think more into this, what a guy to have for a number 5 starter in your rotation. You got 1 through 4 you feel great about. And then 5 sometimes is a throwaway guy, and it's Ashby. I mean, it's Quintana was going to be Ashby, but it's going to be Quintana. I love that. So, yeah, I agree with you, D. D's, that is. The rotation is going to be better. Nick says chicken salad instead of chicken soup. It's like a depression area meal, but an apt apology. Oh, I said that yesterday. I said chicken salad instead of chicken something. Keep up the great work, Chuck. Oh, thanks, Nick. Brew Hoop says, I like this rotation, especially with Woody in our back pocket. Another guy. And you got that right, in our back pocket until he's ready to go again. But yeah, Woody, just keep on rehabbing. Joe says, the best quip, Chuck just wanted to know that the front office had a pulse. Yeah, I said that yesterday on the podcast. I said, I just want to see the front office have a pulse yesterday or this off season. No, there's, knock on the door. Somebody's still in there. Y'all still working in this front office, right? I mean, it was a pretty relaxing off season for all, yeah. So they do have a pulse. We know that there's somebody living there. We know there's somebody working in that Brewer office on One Brewer's Way or whatever they call it these days. Somebody's there because they signed Quintana yesterday. Mike says, my birthday gift from the Brewers, love him. New guess, 96 wins. So I don't know if Quintana changes my win total. I got them for like 87 right now. I'm going for Brewers about 87 wins. I'd be a little surprised if they got to 92 or 93 again. I'd be stunned if they got to 96. But you never know. You never know. Who knows with these guys? James says, never hurts to have extra starting pitching. Yeah, you're right about that. And as we found out, it never does with the injury now. Andy says, I looked at Yoho's stats from last year in the minor. He pitched 57 2/3, a .094 earned run average, 101 Ks. Yeah, he still didn't win pitcher of the year. There was actually a guy who pitched better than him, believe it or not. Andy says, I hope he makes the roster. Andy also says, Chuck, I agree with you. After tonight, it looks like Ashby will be a standby in the bullpen, maybe long relief. Yeah, I thought that too. Even though I wanted him to be a number 5 starter, I think Ashby's headed for the bullpen, or he was headed for the bullpen anyway. They don't go out and get themselves Quintana if they have any confidence in Ashby. $22 million they signed him for a couple of years ago, and they got nothing out of that. Growing from Scratch says, haven't watched this episode yet, but I bet some mention of third base came up. I wanted Bohm, but I've already thought that there's already a Bohm on this roster named Tyler Black. Excellent contact hitter, likely producing 15 to 20 home runs and spotty defense. This is the book on Bohm. Well, Bohm, I think, is more of a 30 home run, 25 to 30, and Black isn't playing third base. I think Murphy kind of ruled him out the other day, growing from scratch. No PN says, the acquisition of Quintana, especially since Ashby came out of the game today. On another note, anyone who has been in the stadium, seen what the improvements have taken place? No, I have not been. I have not been in the stadium for anything. Usually I tried, I haven't even been to the fan store. Usually I try to get in there or go to the restaurant, but I have not been in there at all this off season. I like to go in there to, kind of get the blood flowing a little bit. Get my, went out and saw the Brewers statue, Bob Uecker statue, when it was like 6 below zero. That's the closest I've got to inside the ballpark. Robert, this is why they did not keep Ray. They wanted his $5 million for Quintana. Yeah, Quintana or Ray, who would you take for $5 million? Quintana, certainly. Although Ray, very serviceable. Still funny to see him with the Cubs. James says Ashby's better in the bullpen. Let's see here. James also says, I saw Dan Plesac is picking the Brewers for third in the division. He likes the Cubs and Reds for the division. The sack man could pick whoever he wants. Maybe my favorite closer of all time in Brewers history, an all-star for 3 years in a row, 87 through 89. But I still like the Brewers to win this division. Last year I picked Cincinnati. I'm picking the Brewers until I see otherwise. Until the eye test says otherwise, the Brewers to me are the favorite in the NL Central. Now, some of y'all want to run down the Brewers, and I get that. But, I mean, how many times can we keep doubting these guys outside the postseason? Brian says, unless there are injuries, Quintana will not last until the end of the season. Even if the Brewers are in the playoff mix, he will be traded to a World Series contender for prospects. No, if the Brewers are in the mix for a postseason spot and Quintana's playing well, they ain't trading starting pitching. Brewers are not doing it. They did that with Hader a couple of years ago, and Atanasio is not making that mistake ever again. If they're in the race, they're not trading a key member of this team or a productive member. You can better believe, you could take that one to the bank. Atanasio, and yes, Atanasio, who holds the cards in all this, okay? He is not given the go-ahead on trading anybody. If the Brewers are fortunate enough to be in the pennant race when the trading comes around toward the end of July. Kyle says, I think they're spending money on free agents. They're not spending money on free agents because they're investing money in the prospects like Mate and Pratt. Some of these guys are making $1 to $2 million in the minor leagues. That's why Mark is saying the total payroll is higher, even though the major league payroll might be lower. Yeah, I mean, he gives us the figures that they're spending more money, and I get it. I was talking to my friend Carl today, who's a podcast watcher. Hi, Carl. And he was mentioning kind of the same thing about the payroll is actually higher this year than last year. And I think Atanasio kind of factors in those two things. Chuck, it's pronounced Quintana. Well said. Chuck Friedman here on Locked On Brewers. Friedman, not Friedman, not Friedman, not Friedman. I've had my name spelled and pronounced so many different ways in my life. One time I had a person who I worked with for 5 years, a salesperson who was trying to sell our show, still spelled my name wrong. Anyway, I'm glad Jose Quintana. Last year, or yesterday in the podcast, I said 1 year, $5 million. That's what it was initially reported at. But I guess the consensus is it's 1 year, $4.25 million. Actually, $4,250,000 signing bonus or roster bonus with incentives. Still, that's not bad. My first thought, as I said in the Bill Michaels show, as he said today, very Brewer-like move. But that's okay. That's okay if we're very happy and he gives us some production. Chuck Friedman here on Locked On Brewers. Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. This episode brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. When the game tips off Sometimes you miss it. Sometimes you miss the opening tip-off and you don't get your play in. What do? You go to live betting. I love live betting. I monitor that, and I sometimes see a heavy favorite become a dog or a slight favorite. Well, I jump in on all that heavy favorite. Sometimes it works. A lot of times it does work. Sometimes it doesn't. But you won't want to miss on all the action. If you want to bet on that fourth quarter comeback, second half comeback, stay in the action with all the plays on America's #1 sports book, FanDuel. You can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay. Right now, FanDuel customers, you get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So you win that $5 bet, they get $150. You do $150 in bonus bets into your account. FanDuel.com, your shot for $150 in bonus bets. You win that first $5 bet. Make every moment more with FanDuel. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Strat O Matic, those cards came in today. Didn't hear the FedEx man. Didn't have me signed for anything. Got the email. Your shipment has arrived. And that, I would have been ticked off. It would have been something else. FedEx man never shot. I'm one of these guys at the Amazon truck and the FedEx guy. They never bring me any surprises. Never. They always just drive right by my house. But the FedEx man stopped and gave me my Strat O Matic baseball cards. And I'll say this about the Brewers. Man, it just backs up how great they are defensively. A lot of ones defensively. Perkins in center, Frelick, Ortiz over at third, Bryce Tranger, of course, over at first. Hoskins was a 4, which is the worst you can get over at second base or at first base. But yeah, you Strat O Matic listeners, hey man, thanks for all the shout out that you've given me. You give me some DMs asking me about Strat O Matic baseball, and you're letting me know that tabletop sports are alive and kicking, and that is great. So whether you play Strat O Matic, APBA, Pursue the Pennant, whatever it is, good for you. And again, when you play these games, some of y'all play the new version of like playing on computers and all that. To me, playing the regular board game, rolling the dice, rolling those bones with these board games is fantastic. I'm going to do a little 7-game series between the 82 Brewers, which I have from when I played the game back on a regular basis when I was 15, and the 2025 Brewers. So that was good. I talked a little bit about the Strat O Matic on the Bill Michaels show today as well. The Brewers, impressive numbers. I've been talking, the Brewers don't have a lot of power on their team, yet they have 22 home runs, leading all of spring training, 5 home runs ahead of the Texas Rangers, who've got 17. Brewer Bombers, as they're called, 22 home runs. Spring training so far. There's going to be a tribute to Bob Uecker. There's going to be a lot of tributes for Bob Uecker. And whatever tributes the Milwaukee Brewers do for Bob Uecker will never be enough as to how much he meant to this franchise. They got 2 statues for Uecker already. The one behind home plate in the upper deck. The one outside the ballpark. They got the Uecker seats. They got the get up, get out of here gone. They have a lot of tributes to Bob Uecker already. And let's face it, Bob Uecker is and always will be the face of the franchise. Guy who's so loyal, stayed here since 1971. Probably could have gone on and done national. Well, he did do national stuff, but Uecker at one time could have easily left for a network job on a permanent basis. Remember, he used to do Monday Night Baseball back when it was on ABC, or he did he did the World Series. He did the playoffs and all that. He did network stuff. He was a network quality announcer. And the Brewers were fortunate, just like, Brian Anderson. I mean, Bob Uecker is Bob Uecker. Brian Anderson, Brewers are very fortunate to have him. He's a network quality announcer. Jeff Levering, who you see do games, a network quality on the Big Ten Network, and I believe Fox, network quality. Fine. The Brewers I think the whole Brewer broadcast, TV, radio, I think all those guys, the post-game shows, the pre-game shows, the analysis, I think all those guys are network quality. Every one of them. Even Rock is doing the first game of the year with Joe Buck on ESPN. So the one consistent thing that the Brewer organization has been able to do all these years is produce great broadcasters. And you look at how many broadcasters have left here and have gone on. You look at Pat Hughes with the Cubs. He was with the Twins. Then he came to the Brewers and was Uecker's sidekick for, 12 years or so? But anyway, with Uecker, signature on the outfield grass at AmFam Field on opening day. They'll have a moment of silence. They'll unveil the Uecker patch, which you could also get on your jerseys. The Brewers have also said you can get that Uecker patch on your jersey. It's like $12. If you bought a jersey and you want to get sewn on, it's like $12. So very cool. And it all goes to charity, which is even better. So they will be doing tributes to Uecker on opening day and tributes to him all season long. Like I said, whatever tributes Bob Uecker gets from the Milwaukee Brewers or anywhere in Wisconsin, it's never enough because the man meant a lot to a lot of people. And as I said many times, the soundtrack of our summer. What else? Oh, I saw a little piece done on Erik Kratz's Brewers days today. 2018. I was watching some highlights of him against Colorado in the postseason, the wild card. I mean, Kratzy he's got his own TV show on the internet now, but Kratzy gave us a big hiss. It's another guy who was like a pro's pro at the plate every time. The Brewers have had a few of these guys, veteran guys in their upper 30s who've come to the Brewers and have not only contributed to the team, but have done other things in the locker room to provide leadership. And Erik Kratz was one of those guys. Mike Moustakas is having his number retired by the Kansas City Royals. Let me wind that up. He is retiring as a Kansas City Royal. Maybe his number gets retired somewhere down the line. He's signing a one-day contract with the Royals. Of course, he was a prominent member of the 2015 Royals World Series team. And of course, he was a prominent member of two Brewers teams as well. 2018, when the Brewers traded for him, he had over 200 at-bats and very productive for the Brewers. 2019, God, you almost forget that he had 35 home runs with the Brewers in 2019. And then he left, became a Reds free agent. He signed with the Reds. And that was pretty much the end we saw of Moustakas, who played 13 years in the majors. 2 quality years here. And in my opinion, deserves to be on that wall of fame that the Brewers have down the third base side outside the ballpark. Absolutely. Anybody who's contributing to a postseason like that or a 2-year run like that. Yeah, they busted out in 2019 against Washington, but still, that was a great year. 2018 was a great year. Mike Moustakas, the trade for him was huge. And that's going to do it. Brewers had the day off on Tuesday, and there was not much more that we could find out. Ashby, no news on the MRI. We hope to have that news tomorrow. Good to have you along, everybody. Hey, thanks for listening to us and downloading and all your comments every day. Follow me on Twitter, Chuck Freeman, FREIMUND. If you have a DM, something you want to talk to me about privately, you can always send me something on Twitter, or if you want to DM me, I promise I'll always get back to you and respond. Promise. But hit me up on my personal account. There's a Locked On Brewers account as well, and that's great if you want to follow that. That would be awesome. But, the Chuck Freeman, that's when I do a lot of my commentary and on games and all that. Follow me on there all season long, and that's where I always alert everybody when I drop an episode on Locked On Brewers, which is daily right here. And, of course, our episodes, you get them on Spotify, Google, Apple, wherever you download your audio podcasts. The Brewers are the number one podcast on the internet because of you great Brewers fans out there. And I'm telling you, I can, when you tell me, yeah, I listen to you every day. I listen to you at the airport. I listen to you when I take my kids. I listen to you while I make dinner, whatever. Man, I'm telling you, that makes my day when I hear that because I love hearing from you guys. And whatever questions you have, we're all in this Brewers community together. And, we're just trying to get our team past the first round of the playoffs for a change, which they haven't done in the last 5 years. And by all means, if you subscribe to any of our audio platforms out there where Locked On Brewers is, go to our YouTube page, our growing YouTube page, search Locked On Brewers, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. That'll alert you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers. And please hit the subscribe button and all the likes, whether it's on your audio platforms or on the video platforms. Hit the likes, and that only helps the podcast. And of course, all our podcasts are free. And please, if you can too, patronize our sponsors. That's going to do it. My name is Chuck Freeman. Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making us your first listen to every day. For your second listen, go to my guy Sully, Locked On MLB. I should be on a podcast with him shortly. We can get our time straight here. We're going to hook up, and I'll be on his podcast talking about the Brewers and giving us some national love. Locked On MLB. That'll be your second listen to if you get a chance to that. See you tomorrow, everybody. You've been watching and listening to Locked On Brewers.